Emily, do you have the... Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Emily, for the very kind introduction. This speech has been put together very much at the last minute as I flew in, as Emily stated, from Geneva last night. But I'm very glad to be here amongst you all. And the question that I always think of when I enter these spaces is the exact same question that Emily asked you. And it's a question that I ask myself because I wonder, as Nadine so beautifully stated, about the connectivity of us all in these spaces. So, oops, there we go. Is this not working? Oh, perfect. I clicked too many times. January 21st, 2017, we had a movement that hasn't been seen before, at least in my lifetime. I'm not sure about yours, ever. Thank you, Nadine. On that day, and for those that are unfamiliar with that day, it was the day after the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. I was marching in Geneva with 3,000 women. You were also there. Amazing. I love it. With 3,000 people, we were marching because of the immense struggle to get equal pay in Switzerland. We were marching because Switzerland is extremely patriarchal and the deeply embedded patriarchy. We were marching because of the anti-immigrant sentiment that is rising up in Switzerland. But I was not alone. I was joined by women in Sydney and Lima and Kolkata and Paris and Nairobi. Sorry, there's a slight delay on this. And Nairobi, and even Antarctica, and as Emily said, also Stockholm. We're having slight tech issues. So we were the march that was heard around the world. And that march, that single day protest, gave birth to what we know as the global community. We have, since that time, since January 21st, 2017, we have continued organizing. We have continued as a network of chapters. We have continued as a network of members to work as a grassroots network focused on local issues. In 2018 alone, we organized over 220 events in 23 countries and engaged millions of people. We also work, however, on a global level to tell the unified stories of women and their issues around the world. One of the very first questions that we ask people as they join our global platform is, why do they march? Why do they march? And I want you all to take a moment and think about this answer for yourself, because you all are here for a reason. You want to see the advancement of human rights. So why do you march? These are some of the responses from our membership. I march because it's my civil duty. I march because there is a long way to equality. I march because generations of girls depend on a result, because women deserve equality, freedom, and justice. Why are we still marching 2 years later? Why have we been marching for all of this time? We march because we know that women's issues are numerous, too numerous to name. From gender-based violence to civil rights, to reproductive rights, to LGBTQIA rights, to climate change, which we should relabel as climate emergency, to government oppression. In the past 2 years, and yes, we are a movement that is just 2 years young, but we are made up of so many minds and so many voices. Here's what we've learned. We know that the experiences of women worldwide are so similar. We know that the violence that a woman faces in South Africa is similar to the violence that a woman faces in Jamaica. We know that the systems of misogyny and patriarchy that lead to those violence are similar worldwide. And that is a fact. As a movement, we are intersectional. What does that mean? Intersectionality is a theory coined by Black feminist scholar Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. Apologies. It is a framework that allows us to understand the ways our multiple aspects of our identity intersect. In this room alone, we bring our own intersections of race, class, social mobility, disability, trauma, violence, and so much more. Every single one of us carries that. It is through an intersectional lens that we understand that oppression, that all oppression is connected. The intersectionality of women's lived experience is why we, Women's March Global, exist. This is why every single one of our chapters has their own issue and focus areas. And currently, we are 110 chapters in 6 continents around the world. We are not a prescriptive movement. We don't tell our chapters that this is the focus that you need to have. We know that women's issues around the world do not live in silos. Neither should their funding. Yet, the philanthropic sector isn't equipped for aligning with a shared movement, a shared collective purpose. I know this because as the executive director of Women's March Global, we struggle to get funding for women supporting women. It's one of the reasons why we started, I'm clicking. It's one of the reasons why we started, and that should say Systems Change Grant. It's one of the reasons why we started a Systems Change Grant. Our Systems Change Grants are available to every single member in our community. They are an opportunity to really have change at a very hyper-local level. We see each event that our community does as a turning point to advance women's human rights on a local scale. And our goal at Women's March Global is to create 1 million focus points of change. We know that dismantling systemic patriarchy and misogyny, which has been in place for hundreds of years, requires tools, and it also requires lots of time. This is why we are an open source digital movement. What does that mean? It means that all of our toolkits are available on Wiki. It means that our webinars are available on YouTube. It means that we partner with many other organizations that have been doing this work for longer to share the resources on a larger scale. Here are some of the examples of our Systems Change Grants. In Bamenda, in Cameroon, our community there held a conversation on women's experiences in conflict. In Cameroon, the conflict between Anglophone and Francophone region is still ongoing, and it's devastating. In Barcelona, they used the Systems Change Grant to hold their V-Day event, and it was a cathartic, transformative experience for the women that took place in it because they were volunteers who were also survivors of sexual violence. In Harare, in Zimbabwe, the women there held a discussion, and this is a topic, trigger warning, held a discussion on the rapes that were being done by the army during the government shutdown. I want to emphasize something here. This is not coming from me This is not coming from our team. These events are coming from the local community. We are supporting them in telling their own stories, in changing the fabric of how women mobilize. That is what this is about. To wrap up, and I'm a very fast, efficient speaker. I'm ex-military. It's kind of in my DNA. And I appreciate, Nadine, what you said about the military code of communication there. We know that movements can change history. We've seen it. We have absolutely seen it. From suffragette in 1913 to 7 years later, white women getting the right to vote. For women of color, that came much later. In Iceland, 90% of women walked out for equal pay. 1 year later, they got equal pay. In 2017, millions of women, brings joy to my heart to say that, millions of women mobilized around the world, and we continue to mobilize. And it is igniting this passion, this community to continue mobilizing on issues that we know are critical. So here's our mission. It's simple. We unite women leaders worldwide to lead in their local mission to advance women human rights. Really simple mission. And at Women's March Global, we like to leave you with a call to action, because that's our focus, is action. Our call to action for all of you is the following. Advocate for our digital global solidarity. Be advocates in whatever way that you can for this solidarity. It is the future. It is how we mobilize women worldwide. It is how we will continue to mobilize women worldwide. Secondly, oh dear, have discussions about global connectedness, intersectionality, and purpose. As Nadine so beautifully said, our shared connectedness is what will see us through these really, really scary times. It is the thing that keeps the fire in my belly, as my father always used to say. It is a thing that keeps the fire in my belly, and the reason why I can get up every single day, because I know that I have a community of women behind me that is completely entrenched in this fight. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time and for your attention.